So someone who's
Hmm.
securely attached, this is sort of the utopia, what we're aiming for. They had that emotional attunement from their caregiver. And we're not talking about perfection. Listen,
Hmm.
I've raised two sons. They're over at university now. They're doing great, and I made tons of mistakes.
Yeah.
We're not talking about perfection. What we're looking for, the child is looking for a level of safety, trust, and predictability, meaning like I can predict how you're going to behave, right? That gives someone a sense of calm, right? So when that emotional attunement is there, that child grows up with a set of skills that sets them up to, you know, be really nice and stable for adulthood and especially for intimate relationships. So they're generally very good at recognizing their own emotions and regulating their nervous system. They're good with communication, they understand boundaries, they have healthy coping mechanisms. These are, what we strive for. Now, the numbers fluctuate a little bit, but in North America, we say that about half of the adult population has a secure attachment. Some people will
Wow.
suggest that's a little inflated. It's
Hmm.
probably more like 40%. The numbers will vary, right? This is social science is self-reported. So for simplicity, we'll say half the population grew up in a home where they got enough emotional attunement and predictability to build that secure base. Okay. These people, when they grow up, they generally gravitate towards long-term relationships. They generally get married young. They generally do well in relationships. They take on the responsibilities of life. They're stable. They're not the people that are emotionally volatile, right? And all of this stems from the earliest interactions that they had with their caregiver, what they
Hmm.
saw, what they felt, what they saw, what they experienced, gave them a lens of the world. Is the world safe or not?
Hmm.
Right? It really is that important at that age because it creates a template in our brain. So these are the lucky people in the world, I would say, because
Hmm.
we don't choose the environment that we grow up in. So if we switch our attention now to the second category, insecure attachment, this is where we see those other styles come in because there's three different types of insecure attachment and it's a continuum. So you have the dismissive avoidant, the anxious preoccupied, and then the fearful avoidant. So if you put all of those
Hmm.
together, the anxious, the avoidant, the fearful avoidant, and the secure, then you have your four.
Wow.
So what we talked about earlier is that someone who doesn't have that sort of predictable, consistent love or emotional attunement from their caregiver, they're either going to become anxious preoccupied. So this is a child who experienced love sometimes. They know what love feels like, but it's highly unpredictable. So think about, for example, a child whose mother's an alcoholic, right? One day they can be feeling really good, and the
Hmm.
next day they could be coming down off of the alcohol and be really really mean spirited towards the child.
Hmm.
The next day they're passed out. The child doesn't know if the mother's going to wake up. The next day they're feeling good again. It's a roller coaster,
Wow.
right? So, what the child usually ends up doing in response is they become highly congenial.
Hmm.
They become a parent pleaser. The child, and every child does this because we don't develop critical thinking till later in life, but every child thinks if only I was better,
Hmm.
right? She would love me more consistently. She wouldn't abandon me. They view it as an abandonment, right?
Hmm.
So people who are anxious, preoccupied have a really strong wound around abandonment or a core wound around I am unlikable, I will be excluded, I am unlovable, I am not good enough, I am bad. All of these messages in childhood because they didn't get the consistent care and love. So they believed there was something wrong with them. So these are the people who go above and beyond to become parent pleasers and by extension in adulthood become people pleasers.
Mm.
And the thinking is that if I can be really congenial and the best way to get people to like me is to say yes to everything. And if everyone likes me, no one's going to leave me, right? This is a person who's very disconnected from themselves. They don't understand what they need at all. They're focused solely externally. They were taught this. They were taught to focus on their parents, right? And so what they need never even comes into play. And they often get into relationships where their needs aren't met. They're just focused on pleasing their partner. And I see a lot of these women in their 40s and 50s, and they're completely burnt out.
Mm.
And they usually say something to me like, I've done everything for him and he's not happy, or something like that, right? Which is true, they really have. Um, so the work there is to unravel some of this patterning around you do not need to do all of these things,
Mm.
right? Your needs also matter, but you don't have to earn your love. That's what they're trying to do.
How do you make everybody that's going to work with you answer these 20, 30 questions, these true false questions that derive this, or you can at this point you can kind of figure it out?
When I meet with someone, I often will ask as a first question, tell me the last time that you got upset about something.
Huh.
and and it could be something that happened last year, it could be something that happened yesterday, but the way in which they describe it, the scenario, will often give me a clue as to what their core wound is, and then I'm able to sort of get a sense.
Oh.